Cats teach us to be happy with less. Here's how: have you ever watched a cat just exist? I mean, I really watch them. They're not chasing after grand things, they're not worried about the future, and they're certainly not comparing themselves to the cat next door. And yet, they are completely content. They seem to thrive on doing less, wanting less, being less, at least in the way we usually define being. What if that's the secret they've been trying to teach us all along? We live in a world where we're constantly told we need more to be happy. More money, more success, more recognition. But when you think about it, does chasing more ever actually end? Is there a point where we finally say, "That's it, I have enough"? Or do we just keep moving the goalposts, always hoping that the next thing will fill the void? That's where cats come in, and here's the first lesson they teach us: less is not just enough, it can be everything. Let's break this down, because it's easy to romanticize the simplicity of a cat's life without actually understanding what it means on a deeper level. Cats don't have the distractions we do. They aren't glued to their phones, they're not trying to climb S4 social ladder, and they're not measuring their success by external standards. A warm patch of sunlight, a simple meal, a human to curl up next to, that's all they need. But it's not because they don't have the capacity to want more, it's because they understand something that we often forget: happiness isn't found in the accumulation of things, but in the experience of being present. Here's a question for you: when was the last time you truly felt content with what you have? Not just for a moment, but in a way that made you feel like you didn't need anything more. For many of us, that feeling is fleeting because we've been conditioned to believe that happiness exists somewhere over the horizon, just out of reach. But what if that's a lie? What if the real trick is realizing that the horizon will always move, and the only way to be happy is to stop chasing it? Cats don't chase horizons, they chase laser pointers, sure, but they seem to know that the game is temporary, and they're okay with that. They move on when the game's over. They don't hold on to desires or expectations for what's next. And this brings us to the second lesson: letting go is essential to being happy with less. Cats don't cling to the past or worry about the future. They live fully in each moment, and when that moment passes, they move to the next with ease. They're not carrying emotional baggage. They're not stressed about tomorrow's hunt. They're simply here now. This is where we can learn something profound. How much of our unhappiness comes from holding on to things we don't need? It could be physical possessions, but more often, it's the emotional and mental clutter that weighs us down. Expectations, disappointments, comparisons, these are the things that fill up our mental space and keep us from being content with what we already have. Cats, on the other hand, show us that when we let go of the unnecessary, we make room for peace.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Now, I know what you're thinking, but I'm not a cat. I have responsibilities. I can't just lay around in the sun all day, and you're right. We have bills to pay, goals to achieve, and people to care for. But here's the thing: being content with less doesn't mean doing nothing. It means finding joy in simplicity. It means recognizing that you don't need to add more to your life to feel fulfilled. You don't need to fill every moment with productivity or every corner of your home with stuff. Sometimes the most profound happiness comes from stripping things down to their essence. Let me ask you this: what would your life look like if you embraced the philosophy of less? Less clutter, less striving, less pressure. What if you stopped chasing after things that society tells you are important and started focusing on what actually brings you joy? For a cat, that might be a sunbeam or a quiet nap. For you, it could be something equally simple: a walk outside, a good book, time spent with someone you love. The key is to realize that happiness doesn't come from adding more, but from appreciating what you already have. When we look at the way cats live, it's clear they've mastered the art of simplicity, and it's not because they lack ambition or drive, it's because they understand something deeper. They understand that life is not about accumulating, but about experiencing. They don't need to prove their worth or achieve success in the way we often feel compelled to. They just exist, and that's enough. And here's the final question to ponder for now. If you stopped trying to prove something to the world, would you finally feel at peace? Imagine if you could embrace the idea that who you are and what you have in this moment is enough. That's what cats teach us every day, without ever saying a word. The art of presence, how cats show us the power of being, not doing so. Let's dive even deeper into this idea of cats teaching us to be happy with less. We've already seen how they live with a kind of effortless simplicity, but there's another layer to this, and it's something we often overlook in our own lives: the art of presence. Cats aren't just good at living with less, they're masters of being fully present in the moment. And if there's one thing we humans struggle with, it's being present. Let me ask you, how often are you truly in the moment? Think about it. Most of us are either stuck in the past, replaying old memories, or we're racing toward the future, worrying about what's coming next. Rarely are we just here now, but a cat is fully here at every moment. Whether they're chasing a toy or just sitting in a window watching the world go by, they are completely absorbed in whatever they're doing. Here's the thing: presence is a form of abundance. It's not about how much you have, it's about how deeply you experience what you have. And this is where we often get it wrong. We think that happiness comes from having more stuff, more achievements, more experiences. But what if it actually comes from fully enjoying what's already in front of you? Cats understand this intuitively. When they're curled up in the sun, they're not thinking about the next meal or yesterday's adventures. They're just soaking in the warmth, fully content in that moment. And this is where the human mind can learn a valuable lesson: happiness is found in presence, not in pursuit. So I'll ask you again, when was the last time you truly allowed yourself to be present? No distractions, no multitasking, no thinking about what's next, just fully immersed in the here and now. This is where cats have the upper hand on us. They don't have the constant mental chatter that we do. They don't have to worry about tomorrow's to-do list or dwell on past mistakes. They live in a state of flow, effortlessly moving from one moment to the next. Now, I'm not saying we can or should live exactly like cats, but there's a powerful lesson here. The more present we are, the less we feel the need to chase after external things. When you're truly in the moment, you start to realize that you don't need as much as you thought you did. You don't need endless distractions, more possessions, or constant validation from others. You just need to be here, fully engaged with whatever is in front of you. Let's think about it practically. How often do we fill our lives with things just to avoid being still? We scroll through social media, binge watch shows, or constantly seek out entertainment because it's uncomfortable to just be. But cats, they show us that stillness isn't something to be avoided. In fact, it's in those quiet, still moments that we can find the deepest contentment. Here's a challenge for you. What if you took just a few minutes each day to practice being fully present? No distractions, no agenda, just you and the moment. Whether it's sitting quietly, going for a walk, or even just watching the world outside your window, try it. You might be surprised at how much peace you find in doing less and being more. The beauty of this approach is that it doesn't require anything external. You don't need to buy anything, achieve anything, or be anyone other than who you already are. Presence is accessible to all of us, and it's one of the simplest yet most profound ways to be happy with less. And that's the real wisdom cats offer us. They don't complicate their lives with unnecessary distractions or possessions. They aren't looking for the next big thing to complete them. They're just here, fully immersed in whatever they're doing, and that's enough. What if we could live a little more like that? So here's the big question: if you stopped striving for more and started being more present, how much happier could you be? The answer might surprise you. The joy of small pleasures: why cats teach us that happiness isn't found in grand gestures. Now that we've explored the power of presence, let's take a closer look at something else. Cats excel at the appreciation of life's small pleasures. Think about a cat's day. They don't need extravagant toys, lavish surroundings, or constant novelty to be happy. In fact, give a cat a cardboard box, a patch of sunlight, or a gentle scratch behind the ears, and they're in absolute bliss. Cats teach us that happiness isn't about grand gestures or monumental achievements. It's found in the tiny, often overlooked moments of everyday life. Here's something to reflect on: how often do we overlook the small joys in pursuit of something bigger? We're conditioned to believe that happiness lies in the big milestones: getting that promotion, buying a new car, traveling to an exotic location. But how often do those moments of happiness fade quickly, leaving us hungry for the next big thing? And in chasing these larger-than-life experiences, how many small, beautiful moments do we miss along the way? Cats remind us that happiness doesn't need to be complicated. It doesn't require grand plans or expensive things. It can be as simple as the warmth of the sun on your face, a quiet moment of stillness, or the presence of a loved one. The key is to notice these moments and allow yourself to fully enjoy them. This is something cats do effortlessly. They don't rush through their day looking for the next big thing. They savor the simplicity of the present moment, and they find joy in it. Here's a deep question: how much of your life are you missing because you're focused on what's next instead of what's now? We live in a culture that glorifies productivity, achievement, and constant progress. We're always encouraged to be moving forward, to be striving for more. But in doing so, we often forget to appreciate the small moments that make up the majority of our lives. And those small moments, they're where real happiness lives. Think about it: how many times have you felt a brief moment of joy from something as simple as a good cup of coffee, a laugh with a friend, or a quiet evening at home? These are the moments that cats understand intuitively. They don't need an elaborate life to feel fulfilled. They're masters of contentment because they know how to extract joy from the simplest things. This brings us to another valuable lesson: happiness isn't something we find, it's something we create through our attention and appreciation. Cats don't wait for happiness to come to them. They actively engage with the world around them, noticing the smallest details and finding joy in them. A feather, a soft spot to sleep, a gentle breeze, these are enough. And here's the thing: if you can learn to find happiness in the small things, you'll never feel like you're lacking. Let me ask you this: what small pleasures in your life are you overlooking right now? We're often so focused on the bigger picture, our goals, our ambitions, our future, that we forget to appreciate the little things that make life rich. But when you stop and pay attention, you start to realize that happiness has been there all along, quietly waiting for you in the small moments. So here's a practical takeaway: start noticing the small pleasures in your day. It could be the comfort of your bed when you wake up, the sound of rain on the window, or the taste of your favorite meal. The more you recognize and appreciate these moments, the more you'll realize that happiness is not something you have to chase. It's something you can access right here, right now. Cats have mastered this art. They're not waiting for the next big thing to make them happy. They're content with what they have, and they make the most of every little joy that comes their way. What if we did the same? So, Ask yourself, what small joy can you appreciate today that you might have overlooked yesterday? If you can start to find happiness in the little things, you'll discover that you need far less than you thought to feel truly content. The wisdom of less: why cats show us that our happiness isn't tied to possessions. Let's wrap this up by diving into one of the most profound lessons cats can teach us: the wisdom of less. In a world that constantly tells us to accumulate more things, more status, more success, cats live in direct opposition to this mindset. They show us, without ever saying a word, that happiness isn't tied to what we own or how much we achieve. It's tied to how we engage with the simple things that already surround us. Think about it. Cats don't need a closet full of toys. They're perfectly content with a crumpled piece of paper or an empty box. They don't care about fancy cat beds they'll curl up in a laundry basket or on a windowsill. To a cat, less isn't a limitation, it's freedom. Freedom from the weight of unnecessary possessions, and freedom to appreciate the value of what's already there. Now, let's turn this back on ourselves. How many things do we surround ourselves with, hoping they'll bring us happiness? The latest gadgets, the bigger house, the new car, all these things are fine in moderation, but we often confuse acquiring them with achieving happiness. We think that if we just have that one more thing, we'll finally feel content. But of course we don't. The satisfaction is fleeting, and soon enough, we're off chasing the next item, the next upgrade. Here's a question for you: what if you already have everything you need to be happy? Think about it. What if all the possessions you're chasing are distractions from the real source of happiness, the things that don't come with a price tag? Time with loved ones, quiet moments of reflection, the joy of being truly present. Cats show us this truth every day. They don't need much, but they're content because they know how to find joy in what's already around them. The reality is, the more we accumulate, the more we risk losing sight of what really matters. We fill our homes, our time, and our minds with things that don't ultimately bring us fulfillment. Cats, on the other hand, live lightly. They carry no burden of ownership, they simply enjoy what's there in front of them. And when we strip away the excess, we make room for more meaningful experiences and deeper connections. So, here's the final challenge: what can you let go of, both physically and mentally, to make space for the things that truly matter? If we can learn to live with less like cats, we might just discover that we've had enough all along.